and welcome to my channel. I'm Ashley, and today I want to make your feet smile with foot yoga therapy, yoga for beginners or any level practitioner. In today's yoga practice, we will be going through a series of simple but effective yoga postures and stretches and exercises that can help a variety of foot ailments and problems. Many people don't realize that foot problems are not just always about the feet. A lot of times the foot problem can stem from somewhere above the foot, like in the calves or in the hamstrings or in the hips. So the goal for this practice today is to help your feet feel better, to get out of pain. And with regular practice of some or all of these postures and exercises, you can actually help to even reverse some of the foot problems that you see commonly in people today. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. Go ahead and come onto your back. We're going to start with a few little mobility exercises that are really great for just opening up the feet to begin with. Take your feet above your head. Your knees can be bent, arms just wherever they're comfortable, out to your side or on your torso. Now relax your feet completely and just notice how close together your toes are. Now try to flare your toes as if you were flaring your fingers out to the sides so they all become separated. Now the one that is the hardest to get separate are your pinky toe and your ring toe. So those ones, if it's totally normal if you're having trouble separating them, just do your best. Try to bring all your attention and willpower into your toes to pull them as far apart from each other as you can. And just hold, breathe slow and steady breaths. Now relax your feet again. Going to do that a couple more times. Flare your toes. As you flare your toes, push through the balls of your feet toward the ceiling. Relax your toes, relax your feet. Last one, flare your toes. It's not the most exciting thing, but it's very, very effective. The spreading of the toes helps to open up not only the ligaments and tendons of your feet, but also this moves up your entire leg because everything is connected. It can even help benefit your hips. Release. All right, now we're going to pull our toes toward our knees. Hold. Then point your toes toward the ceiling. Toes to knees. Toes to ceiling. Try to push evenly through inner and outer foot on both positions. Toes to knees. Point your toes. Relax your feet. Last exercise like this, we're going to do inversions and eversions. So the first one is you're going to take your soles of your feet and try to point them toward each other without moving your legs. So you're just working from your ankles. And then push your feet in the opposite direction. So soles of feet away from each other. So your feet should be turning out, but not with your legs, just with your outer ankles. Point soles of feet toward each other. Soles of feet away from each other. Do your best not to move your legs. It can be hard. Last one, feet toward each other. Soles of feet away from each other. And then back to center, relax your feet. Bend your knees, pull your knees toward your chest. Feel free to rock side to side a few times, massage your back. You can either roll to one side or rock back to rock forward and sit up. Then come onto your hands and your knees. These next couple of postures are called Thunderbolt with different toe variations. The first one we're going to do is curl the toes under, knees, ankles together, and then slide your knees back until they don't slide back anymore. Then sit up on your feet with your hips. Do squeeze your inner ankles toward each other, same with your inner thighs. Keep that. You can stay here, just focus on the feet, hands to thighs, or you can add some arms, interlace your fingers, backs of hands on top of your head, pull your ribs back, shoulders back, and pull your elbows away from each other. Then maybe straighten your arms. Slow, steady breath. If you're not able to hold as long as I have on the video, feel free to just come out whenever you need to. You just build up time over time with practice. Take your hands to the floor, then flip to the tops of your feet for the second variation. Do squeeze your knees and ankles in just like the last one and have a seat on your feet. Try not to let your inner ankles fall apart too far. Keep that engagement pulling them toward each other. Again, you can just focus on the feet, stay here, sit up tall, or add arms, interlace fingers behind your back, squeeze shoulder blades toward each other, maybe straighten your arms. You can stay here or round your spine, keeping hips on your heels, and just drop your head toward your knees, to your knees, or to the floor in front of your knees. If you're doing the forward fold here, to make sure you're pushing your shoulders away from the floor and push your knuckles toward the ceiling. Slowly sit up. Release your hands if they're together, then shift forward to all fours. Widen your knees about hip distance. Have your hands a little further in front of your shoulders. Curl your toes under, coming into a downward facing dog. Push hands down and forward with toes curled under. Lift your knees off the floor. You can stay here or start to straighten your legs, lift your hips higher, maybe take your heels to the floor or somewhere along the way. Hold here, pushing your hands down and forward, feet down and back. Remember that exercise we did at the very beginning of class? Just like that exercise, flare your toes wide. Push evenly through your inner and outer feet the whole time. Try to even lift your inner arches of your feet away from the floor while keeping all four corners of your feet rooted. Bend your knees a little, lift your heels. Walk your hands back to your feet. Go slow. Now, once you're walked back all the way, take your feet flat on the floor and then separate your feet a little bit wider so they're a little wider than your hips, maybe even as wide as your mat. Keep your feet engaged just like you did in down dog. Inner and outer corners of your feet pushing down, inner arches of your feet lifting up. Then lean your torso more forward with your knees still bent and round yourself over your legs. Act as though you're trying to suck up the floor through the center point of your foot, right around under this point where I'm pointing to, and breathe here. It's about the halfway point between your second toe, and the back of your heel. Lengthen your spine. Keep your feet active. Set your hips down between your heels. If you have heels that are lifting, which is very common, you'll want to keep your hips as high as you can without lifting your heels. You can also place a blanket underneath your heels so your heels are lifting up but they're supported by something. Otherwise, just get where you can get. Your hands can stay on the floor out in front of you, or if you're down all the way with your heels on the floor, maybe lean back on your heels and then place your palms in front of your heart. Any or all of those. And just breathe here, again, focusing on pushing evenly through all four corners of your feet, lifting through the center of the foot up. Lift your chin, lean forward again, lift your hips all the way up, toes pointing straight ahead. If you can straighten your legs while keeping your ribs and thighs touching, feel free to do that. Otherwise, stay with bent knees, ribs and thighs connected. As you fold, feel free to grab your elbows and just hang here. And take your hands back to the floor, walk all the way back out. And then take your knees to the floor. Cross your ankles, flip over your seat, and come into a seated position here. Fire logs or Agni Stambhasana. What you're going to do is you're going to take one shin like so your right shin down on the floor, parallel to the edge of your mat, and then take your other shin on top of that shin. Now, what can tend to happen here for a lot of people is that their knee won't go down. And if this happens, you can always wedge something under this thigh so that it has something to support and it can let go. Otherwise, your other option would be to take the top leg in front of the bottom leg and rest your knees on your feet. So whichever variation you're in, make sure you're pushing through your outer feet, pinky toe edge into the floor, doing that flared toe action we did again, and then push through the big toe edges out toward the sides of the room. From here, you can just stay upright, hands to the floor, lower back lifting in and up can be good enough. Or if you want more stretch in your hips, start to walk your hands forward and fold. Some even like to push hands into feet, feet into hands for a little bit more of something to push into. Otherwise, your hands can go out in front of you as you fold. Slowly lengthen your spine, come back up, switch the cross of your legs. So your other shin is on bottom. Again, either doing stacked legs or take your top leg in front of your bottom leg, knees to ankles, knees to feet. Push through your outer feet, lift your outer ankles up, push through your big toes out to the sides. Either hands back, hands to feet, or hands forward, maybe fold. Go slowly, mindfully, at your own pace. Slowly sit back up. Take your feet to the floor and your knees wide, and then just use your hands to walk your legs out a little wider and guide your legs toward straight. So you're in a V shape. Then lift and lower your hips. That way your sitting bones feel even underneath you. Feel free to move your flesh back a little bit manually. Then from here, again, you can stay upright, leaning back on your hands. Flare your toes. Again, pull your heels toward your hips like you're trying to bend your knees. Keeping your knees and toes pointing up, maybe walk your hands forward to whatever capacity. Maybe even forearms to the floor, maybe even your whole torso to the floor. Just go where you can and hold. Slowly sit back up. Grab underneath your knees with your hands. Bend your knees. Take your feet together, your knees wide. And then scoot yourself a little closer to your heels or a little further away. Again, you can either keep your hands behind you or push your outer feet into each other. Open your feet up like a book. And then maybe hook your thumbs to the inner arches, fingers around the tops. You can stay upright here or start to fold forward, heart toward your feet, chin toward the floor. Keep pressing your outer feet into each other as you push your knees out to the sides, instead of thinking about pushing your knees down. The downward pushing of the knees is actually counterintuitive to this pose. So think push out instead. Slowly sit back up. Use your hands to lift your knees up. And then cross your ankles. Come into a normal cross-legged position that feels comfortable for you. Just take a moment here, closing your eyes or gazing at a steady point out in front of you. Just taking this moment to take some deep breaths, to thank yourself for showing up for yourself today in this way. To thank your feet for supporting you even when it's hard. Gently open your eyes. Thank you so much for joining me for this practice today. Please let me know what you thought in the comments. If you haven't yet subscribed and you would like more from me, feel free to hit that subscribe button and the bell notification so that you get notified when I post new content. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.